At the end of class, I have an announcement. There are still a couple of vacancies available in some of my Tuesday and Thursday courses. We'll talk about that shortly. Okay. Everybody have one now? Usually we have 2 or 3 people who straggle in after the deadline. According to my listing, there are exactly 30 people who are enrolled in the course. Do we have enough chairs? Are there? Let me talk about class requirements for just a moment, and I apologize for it being about 812 degrees in here, but I have always assumed, and this is my 14th year teaching at SAU, I have always assumed that the thermostat in the back of the room was propped, and unfortunately it gets a little bit warm in here, and all of my hot air certainly will not help the festivities at all. But the first item of business is to take a look at the sheet of paper that I gave you, and also take out a sheet of paper, because even though you'll be going to the website for syllabus information during the semester, I want to reinforce all of the assignments today. You'll notice that we have something called a Prometheus interactive syllabus. And what Southern Arkansas University did during the spring semester, it became the 3rd institution in the United States to sign up with George Washington University, which puts together a template, for lack of a better term, an interactive syllabus. And I spent the better part of the summer putting together templates for each of the courses that I teach. Now, in broadcast journalism, mass communication, and speech, that can be quite an effort, because I have 13 classes that I'm responsible for, and at this point I've put together 8. One of the first was the mass communication course. Now, the reason that I put the http:// on here was that the Prometheus website at SAU does not have a www in it. So what I want you to do is to take this sheet of paper and place it somewhere where it's not going to be lost, because whenever you log in, and that's why I'm not giving you a syllabus today, you can go ahead and go to the website and find anything you ever wanted to know about this class. If you look at the bottom, whenever you go to the website, you will have to write in a course password and a course ID. And I tried to make this as brilliantly simple as possible, with the password being MCOM 1003 fall 00. It's pretty easy to remember. And the course ID is something that never changes from Prometheus, and that's 2052. So, once you've done that, you have to log in. And do me a favor, I want you to write your first and last name in upper and lowercase, just like what you see here where it says Intro to Mass Communication. Do it exactly like that. Because what the interactive syllabus does, it takes all of the names of students and puts them in alphabetical order. The other nice thing about this syllabus is it gives you an opportunity to see exactly where you stand during the semester. I have listed all of the different items, media quizzes, term papers, and exams, in the electronic grade book. And I have the control set so you can go in there at any time and find out what your grade is. Now, this semester is a little bit different. For the first 2 years, because some of my courses are taught on a rotation basis, some are not offered unless once every other year. For the first 2 years, people who are in all of my courses for the first time, different courses for the first time, will get extra credit not only for using Prometheus, but for putting together lab assignments. This particular course is worth 500 points. And let me tell you how that's broken down, and I'd ask you to write down these assignments as we go. Pretty much during the semester, and I should preface my comments by saying that one of my goals out of you being in this class is to be a better media analyst. I want you to really perceive and analyze some of the trends that are going on in mass communication and broadcast journalism. Let me not get too far ahead here. The book that you found in the bookstore, did it look like this? Or did it look like this? Okay, look. Did any of you get a book that looked like this? Do they all say 4th edition? For those of you who have your hymnals, do they have 4th edition on them? All right. I was told by the fine folks who are at Wadsworth that they would be changing the edition to the 5th this semester, but I can work with it for this. Not really a big deal. One of the nice things that I did put on the website, for those of you who haven't purchased books yet, is that since this is being done on an interactive basis, I can go back and reshape and tweak and tweak. And for those who know me really well, they know I am anal retentive to the max. If something is not exactly perfect, it really bothers me. Anyone who has ever been in my office knows that everything has to be exactly one way. That's the way I've tried to work the syllabus. One thing that you are going to help me with for extra credit, and I'll talk about this at the end of class and again on Friday, is that at the end of the syllabus, and it scrolls on for quite a ways, there is going to be a McGale Library course bibliography, and for 5 extra credit points, each of you are going to bring at least one book from the library to class in different areas, whether it be interactive communication, radio, TV, movies, advertising, public relations, global media, and so on, that will help your grade. You're also going to get 5 extra credit points during the semester for using Prometheus. You would be surprised, well maybe you wouldn't be, you would be surprised at how many faculty members have ran away from this technology. It's something that I embrace because I really feel like your educational experience is going to be much better than it would have been otherwise. I do not have all the answers to your questions, even though I often pretend as if I do, for those of you who have taken my classes in the past. The advantage is that you can go to different websites and do research. For instance, let's say that one of the term papers is due, and you're not exactly sure about structure or paragraphing or spelling, grammar, punctuation. One of the sites that I have as a website for you on the syllabus interactively that you can click on is researchpaper.com. No, it doesn't plagiarize papers. It gives you examples of better writing skills. Because I feel like no matter what technology we talk about right now, in about 20 to 25 years when your kids are going to college, and I'm in my last year before going off to retirement somewhere in stamps, is that I really feel that if the writing skills that you have are the most important things that I can give you, writing and analysis. Now, let me go through this chronologically in terms of assignments, point allocation, and dates they are due. Since there are 2 occasions during the semester when I'm going to be gone, in September I'm presenting papers at a convention in Kentucky, and in November I'm scheduled to present papers at a convention in Seattle. Most of the time, in fact all of the time, your assignments are going to be due in the middle of the week. Conventions take place at the end of the week, and on those 2 occasions I'll probably have videotapes shown to you in class dealing with materials that would be cannon fodder for an exam. The first graded assignment will be turned in on Wednesday, September 6th. Everything will be due on a Wednesday. We will go in a rotation: media quiz, term paper, exam, media quiz, term paper, exam. The first media quiz is due on Wednesday, September 6th, and it's worth 15 points. And what I want you to do here is to scour the newspapers for news items or personalities or items of interest that you find newsworthy. And let me read what I have here on the syllabus. Research concerning news events, issues, and personalities impacting mass communication and popular culture. So let's say that Al Gore is in the news for some reason, or there may have been something about the presidential debates. You might say, number 1, Presidential Debate Commission, as what the title of your particular media quiz topic is. Al Gore decided he would not participate in the 3rd debate with George W. Bush in St. Louis, Missouri. That's simple. And I'll give you examples of what I mean later on, but the main idea behind this is that I want you to start doing a lot of reading of newspapers and magazines and just become aware, almost through osmosis, of the important things that are taking place in mass communication and pop culture. They don't necessarily have to be serious, as you'll find out with some of the examples I give you later on. The first term paper is worth 50 points. and it's due on Wednesday, September 13th. Ordinarily, I do not like to read to my students, but so there is no understanding, I am going to read directly from the project section of the interactive syllabus. Television news content and analysis. That's the title of the term paper. Television news content and analysis. Now, since you're going to be going to this later today, you don't have to write down everything that I'm going to say at this point because this goes on for about 40 seconds. So pardon me for lack of eye contact. Evaluate, contrast, and compare a minimum of 3 network or cable television newscasts: ABC, All News Channel, CBS, CNBC, CNN, Fox, Headline News, MSNBC, NBC, or PBS. How many news stories are reported in an individual program? How much time is devoted to each story? Are the reports hard or feature in nature? Is such broadcast writing literate, understandable, and in active voice? How does one newscast compare against another on the same day? How are similar stories covered by different networks in terms of visuals, sound bites, and natural sound? What types of news items, if any, deserve more coverage? And let me stress all of this to you right now. Recording multiple national news programs on videotape for research and writing purposes is strongly recommended. For those of you who become majors, I think you're going to find out that a lot of the research that you do is not only going to come from the links that I give you to each syllabus, but it's going to come from recording television programs, taking materials from the internet, and recording materials from radio stations. For those of you who don't know, a soundbite on television would be someone who is speaking. Again, we use the Al Gore example. Vice President Al Gore had this to say, and you see him talking for about 10 seconds in an uninterrupted fashion. It's analogous to a direct quote that you might see in a newspaper story. Natural sound would be the natural sound that you would hear in a television news story, of a crowd applauding or birds chirping or anything like that. So that's worth 50 points. Term papers in my classes are 4 to 5 pages, typed, double-spaced. Now, the other item is that there will be a separate reference page. All of this is stapled and handed in at the same time. The reference page is not necessarily a bibliography as such. For instance, for this term paper, what you might write down on a reference page is the television newscasts that you watched, when you watched them, at what time, and at what network. It's that simple. That gives me a better benchmark by which to look at your analysis. For instance, in this case, maybe you watched CNBC, which you get in Magnolia, Headline News, which we get in Magnolia, All News Channel, which we get in Magnolia, but it's very late at night coming in from Channel 4 in Little Rock, and you may watch NBC. How do each of those newscasts compare? And we'll talk about that in more specifics later on. Okay, now, the first exam is taken the next week, and that's Wednesday, September 20th. Close that door about halfway there. Thank you. I taught a couple of speech sections in here during the summer, and we were serenaded every day by folks next door who were auditioning for Star Search, apparently. Anyway, and I don't think they made the cut, so Ed McMahon rolled on in his RV. Anyway, the first exam covers chapters 1 through 4 of the text. And I should mention something. I'm not necessarily going to regurgitate the book to you. There are some items that I'm going to talk about in class that are not going to be in the book. But I really try to be fair. I don't want to fool you on an exam where you've got A, B, C, D, E is all of the above, F is one of the above on on certain days and use this during the leap year. I'm not going to do that. My exams consist of the following. The first and third exams you take during the semester will include, don't worry about writing all this down, just to give you an idea. The first and third exams consist of identification, true, false, multiple choice, short answer, and essay. There is something that I would like you to do, though. I want you to go to the bookstore at some point in the next couple of weeks and buy some blue books. They cost maybe 20 cents to a quarter. Whenever you write exams for me in this class, you do the same thing that I did in my classes as an undergraduate and graduate student. You don't write your exams on separate sheets of paper, you put them in a blue book. That way, I can go through the information very quickly, give you a grade, and the advantage is, since the exams are given to you on a Friday, most of the time I'll have the exams graded over the weekend, and by maybe Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, if you have access to a computer either at SAU in your dorm room or at home, you can immediately access your grade. I really want to try to be diligent in getting everything back to you in as timely a fashion as possible. And with the interactive element now, it certainly is within the realm of possibility. So we have text, lecture, class discussion, handout, and videotapes. Whenever I present papers at conventions, I often put together original videotapes, one of which you're going to be seeing on Friday. I don't believe in giving you 8,000 assignments early on during the semester. In fact, this is the only class that I teach that has as many term papers as it does, and as many exams as it does, and as many media quizzes as it does, and there's a reason for my madness. I want you to write as much as possible early on and try to get some of the kinks out of your system, because if you're one of my majors, by the time you graduate, you will have done an awful lot of writing. And whenever you're in a competitive media marketplace, being able to write and analyze is really going to stand you in good stead, because good writing, good grammar, and quality spelling matter. And if I'm trying to read an exam that you do early in the semester and it makes no sense, hopefully I'll have some time during the rest of the semester and other classes you take to make you a better writer and analyst. The second media quiz, by the way, that first exam is worth 50 points. The second media quiz is on Wednesday, the 4th of October, and that's worth 15 points. We're basically going over current events, so I'll talk a little bit about that later. But you'll really feel comfortable with that rotation, you know, media quiz, term paper, exam. It's very easy for you to comprehend. The second term paper is due on Wednesday, November 11th, and it's worth 50 points. What did I say? Did I say November?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be 42 next month, and I had a premature senior moment. All right, Wednesday, October 11th. And this is going to be a movie review. And God love Mr. Florence, but I think it's probably appropriate at this time that the lovable Cameo Theater is under new management, so you don't have to take a look at the 1949 screen anymore, and those juju beads that have been decomposing for 5 years in the carpet have finally been swept up. Well, what I want you to do, for those of you who do live in Magnolia and have no transportation, you're obviously going to go to the Cameo. Are they building a new theater over next to the Superstop? What is that? They moved it to El Dorado? Are they building anything over there? They're just...
The Cameo is renovated now, so it's not, I promise.
I'm glad. I saw some photographs, some digital photographs on the Banner News website where they were actually putting in new chairs and a Dolby sound system, and it actually did. Once it's renovated, it supposedly is going to be, or is, quite nice. So are they going to build anything out there by the Superstop, or are they just dug up dirt for the love of digging it up? All right, let me go ahead and read this to you. Again, pardon my lack of eye contact, but I want you to know exactly what I'm expecting from you. Each student is required to view a new release at a local or regional theater. Describe the circumstances. I do cartoon voiceovers in my off time. Describe the circumstances which this movie was chosen, such as a television commercial, newspaper advertisement, positive critical reviews, or a promotional internet site. Describe the overall theater experience, and in the past, when kids went to the Cameo, the experience was longer than the movie. When and at what time of day was the movie viewed? What types of concessions were available, and at what cost? How many people were in the audience, and what was their general demographic background? Bless you twice. How did they react to the movie as it unfolded? Were there hidden product advertisements in the movie? The most blatant one would be, if you ever watch E.T., what does E.T. like? Reese's Pieces. And one of the great promotional opportunities of all time was lost because Steven Spielberg, who is the director of E.T. and Schindler's List and a lot of other movies. Wait a minute, I don't have my glasses on.
Do what?
Oh, okay. Hello. All right. I have many daughters running around campus. It's terrible. Anyway, Steven Spielberg's favorite treat is M&Ms. He talked to M&M Mars and wanted to have M&Ms in the movie as a treat that E.T. liked. M&Ms couldn't come to an agreement. The sales of Reese's Pieces skyrocketed after that movie. That's a hidden product advertisement, and there are many others. One of the reasons is it helps bring the cost of the movie down. Instead of going out and buying cases of beer or cases of soda or RVs or automobiles, they're provided free, and then at the end of the movie you have some type of notice indicating where it came from. Next, what type of audience were the producers trying to reach, and were they successful? Again, one of the most blatant, easy demographic appeals would be one of the websites indicated this week that a British boy, 11 years of age, has been cast to star in the first Harry Potter movie. Will that movie be catered to a younger audience, or will it be catered to a wider audience? What we find with many of the blockbuster movies that come out during the summer is that they're primarily catered to people who are your age, who have a fair amount of disposable income, even though those who have the most disposable income are usually those over 50. Finally, describe the movie's theme, production quality, and whether it was worth the price of admission. Whenever I first started this in maybe 89 or 90, the only thing I did was ask people about the movie. And they would talk about the movie and the demographic appeal and whether they liked it and whether or not people were talking about it in line at the theater. And I realized there was something missing. So I wanted the entire experience, going from the beginning, whether you're going to go out on a date, that type of thing, what the concessions were like, they cost you an arm and two legs, did you feel like you wasted a lot of money? In 1997, I felt like I wasted money. I was in Savannah, Georgia. I was at a convention presenting papers. My wife happened to be with me at the time, and she wanted to watch The English Patient, and I didn't want to. I did not want to watch The English Patient. My best friend, who's a professor at a college in Kentucky, he came along because he was presenting papers with me. And he and I both basically fell asleep during the movie. And I was in the back row, and I started to snore, and I got a couple of shots in the gut from Mrs. Reppert. I could not, with all due respect, other than Kristen Scott Thomas, who was a very attractive woman, I could not stand the movie. Now, other people like it, that's fine. But I can talk about my theater experience. I can talk about buying the overpriced milk duds to the bladder buster size soft drink to anything you can imagine. The 9 people who were in the theater at the time at 9:30 in the evening. Do I feel like I got my money's worth? No. But my wife loved it. She cried all the way through it. She thought it was very wonderful, very romantic. So whenever you're talking about the movie, you're obviously going to go at it from more than just a gut perspective, the old Siskel and Ebert motif. I want you to think about the demographic appeal, and I'll be talking about that a lot during the semester because demographic relates not only to sex, male or female, but basically age groups, ethnicity, religion, that type of thing. For instance, there was a movie that came out a few years ago called The Joy Luck Club, which would have been catered more to Chinese or Japanese Americans because it dealt with that particular ethnicity. So keep that in mind as you think about movies over the next month. And the other thing I should mention is, on the days that the term papers are due, 1, make sure you have them completed, and 2, I'll ask each of you to take about 2 minutes from your seats to talk about the movie you saw and whether or not you liked it, and whether or not you would recommend it to others during the course of class. We'll always be doing that on those days. Okay, exam 2 is 50 points, and it will be taken on Wednesday, October 18th. This exam covers chapters 5 through 8 of the text. There is one difference. Exams 1 and 3 go through, come see me later.
All right.
Exams 1 and 3 go through the format of identification, true, false, multiple choice, short answer, and essay. Exams 2 and 4 are short answer and essay. For lack of a better term, exams 2 and 4 are essay exams. Now, my experience has been that students percentage-wise do better on the essay exams than they do on 1 and 3. Because even if you're on the right track to an answer, but you don't give me quite everything I'm looking for, I'm pretty good at giving you the benefit of the doubt. So I try to put the fudge factor in there a little bit. Now, ordinarily, whenever I do this, I will give you a number of short answer questions, but one more than you have to respond to. Ordinarily, I would give you 6 short answer questions, or 7. I think I give you 7 and you have to answer 6. And then I give you 3 essay questions and you have to answer 2. That way, and I found this to students and a graduate student, if I had some flexibility, I probably had a better chance, because inevitably on an exam, something's going to come up that you don't know the answer to. And if you can wiggle around one of the questions that you really didn't do a lot of studying for, you're going to find out you've done better. So, again, I think that's a fair way to approach it. The third media quiz is on Wednesday, November 1st. My guess is many of the items, and by the way, I should mention this, the media quiz is 15 points. What I used to do was to give you media quizzes in class. But these media quizzes, and pardon me for backtracking here, the media quizzes are prepared by you outside of class, where you bring me 15 separate items and give me a definition of each of the items. The media quizzes are a blatantly simple, free 60 points. 4 media quizzes times 15. But I do that to force you to get your buns into the library or go to a website or get a magazine or a book or a newspaper and do some reading and analysis. The third term paper is due on Wednesday, November 8th. And it's also worth 50 points. The title of term paper number 3 is Campaign 2000 Media Coverage. Campaign 2000 Media Coverage. Now, this is one of my favorite times of year, especially during a presidential election. If you have access to a VCR, you really need to, even now, start videotaping, especially campaign commercials. I have some in my archive dating back a few years, and they are hilarious as to some of the blatant falsehoods that you'll find in them. Especially those from Arkansas congressional districts. They can be quite ludicrous and laughable. Again, let me read this to you. You can print this out at the end of the day. It is not coincidental that this is due the day following a national election. Remember, the presidential election is on Tuesday the 7th. And I encourage all of you to go out and vote. Vote once, vote twice. Thousands of hours of coverage will have been devoted to issues and candidates by broadcast, print, and internet news outlets and hundreds of millions of dollars spent on campaign, radio, and television commercials. The first half of the paper will critique local and national broadcast, print, and internet reporting. How does political coverage vary in each medium? What is covered thoroughly, and what deserves more reportage? The second half of the paper will examine fact-checking and truth-telling, or lack thereof, in local or national campaign, radio, and television advertisements of the student's choice. Are listeners or viewers getting facts, falsehoods, or a bit of both? Recording multiple local and national programs on videotape for research and writing purposes is strongly recommended. So basically, you're writing two short papers and combining them into one. Most of the papers in this class are going to be about 5 pages with that separate reference page, what you watch, what you look at. So the first half of the paper, take a look at some of the reporting that's done in this area. I remember one of my students in the 1992 campaign said, Mr. Reppert, can I check out a camera because President Bush is going to be in Shreveport today at Barksdale. He's going to have a press conference at the airport, actually fly around at the airport. And I said, fine. The local coverage did not talk about issues. It did not look into any substance of what Bush, Clinton, or Carrillo believed in 1992. It was all about the president's in Shreveport. Well, big whoop. Could we learn a little bit more? Does that really mean a lot? You would be surprised at how often this happens on local television news where someone's here. What are they doing? Well, it doesn't matter. They're here. Okay, fine. Who cares? With the second half of the paper, the fact-checking and truth-telling for advertisements. And I'll tell you where you can find a lot of this. If you have access to a VCR, what I would do is just get a brand new videotape and set that tape on the slowest speed. That way you can get more on the tape because you're not turning anything into it. And just start recording 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. local newscasts. To me, I have somewhat of an ethical problem seeing political advertisements during a supposedly unbiased news broadcast. That bothers me. I wish they wouldn't do it, but I know why stations do it because they can charge more money for those advertisements. But if you record 6 and 10 p.m. local television news, you'll cull a lot of commercials for President, Congress, Senate, right out of there. And we're in a unique position in the Arklatex because you can get stations from Little Rock, you can get stations from Louisiana, both Shreveport and Monroe, and because we're so close to Texas, about 45 minutes or half hour with the way my wife drives, you're going to get a lot of crossover from campaigns in Texas, whether it be congressional or Senate. And what I want you to do is to look at those commercials and keep in mind, the paper is not all that long. 5 pages seems like a lot, but it really isn't because half of it is news coverage and half of it deals with the commercials. In that half of the paper, I want you to really take a close look at the way in which these advertisements are put together. Are they true? Are they false? Are they manipulating the facts? And you'll find a lot of fact manipulation. So oftentimes, instead of going to the polls to vote for someone, if you only took a look at television commercials, you would think that the idea was to vote against someone. You'll see this a lot in the campaign for the 4th Congressional Senate race, which we are a part of right now, with Mike Ross from Prescott, who is running against the incumbent Jay Dickey from Pine Bluff. You'll see a lot of that on local news. And a lot of money is being spent on that campaign. Now, the third exam is on Wednesday, November 15th, and it covers chapters 9 through 12 of the text. I have used the same text, albeit updated editions. This is now my 13th year. And what I like about it is that it is very predictable, with one chapter being radio, one being TV, one being movies, one being radio, one being journalism, one being global media, one being ownership, and they added a new one on interactive communication. So I really like the way they put the text together. So the format for exam 3 will be the same as exam 1. And just go back and look at exam 1. The fourth media quiz is on Wednesday, November 29th. And that's 15 points. And of course, the exam taken on the 15th of November is 50 points. I have to go back and check my schedule. I think I'm supposed to be in Seattle. It's either the week the term paper is due or the exam is due. I think it's the week of the term paper. I think. But in any event, whatever assignments you have, since they're due on a Wednesday, I'll just take with me and grade them on the plane. So I don't have access to a computer, so whenever I get back, I'll just give you your grades that following day, and the first Monday I'm back and post them. So media quiz 4 is Wednesday, November 29th, worth 15 points. Term paper 4. The end is in sight. Usually all of my classes are worth 100 points, but broadcast news writing, which is offered in the spring, and intro to MCOM, because there are so many items going on, it's worth 500 points. And the reason I do that, it's easier to break down with the 90, 80, 70, 60 dichotomy. If you break 90% in my class, you get an A. So it's that simple. Okay, term paper 4 is due on Wednesday, December 6th. Here's the title, and I'll repeat it. Legal constraints on international journalists. Legal constraints on international journalists. And I'll go ahead and read this to you. It cannot be assumed that news reporters in other countries have the same press rights and constitutional guarantees of those in the United States. Research will be conducted into privileges and restrictions journalists have in countries of the student's choice. Next, examine recent cases where international journalists have been jailed or broadcast print facilities shut down from failure to comply with governmental regulations. Can such restrictions realistically continue in an era of internet reportage? Here's the nice thing about Prometheus. In past, students might be at a loss to know where to do some research for this. But when you go to the website, and I know this is going to sound again extremely egocentric, but from an aesthetic point of view, if you're taking a look at the syllabus with Internet Explorer, I think the syllabus is most readable and looks best aesthetically when you have the font style on largest. It takes a while to scroll, but you can see everything much better. Whenever you go to the website, you'll see the title of the course, you'll see the semester that it's offered, you'll see my name, you'll see the book, you'll see how much a used book costs, you'll see everything that you need to know for the class. And finally, you get down to the websites. I have placed 10 website links within the syllabus for you to go to. Why do I mention that now? One of the websites that I have is called, don't worry about writing this down, it's called the Freedom Forum. It's based in Washington, D.C., and it's run by Gannett, which is the largest newspaper. Press rights and the First Amendment. And when you are working on that fourth term paper, and this is the beauty of the interactive syllabus, is if you're not sure, you can go to the Freedom Forum website, you can go to the McGill Library website, you can go to a number of different websites that talk about press restrictions and press freedom. If you go to the Freedom Forum, they will talk about international journalism issues. Because it might surprise you how many international journalists are jailed for reporting the most trivial of items. Case in point. And this took place yesterday on the SAU campus. The editor of the Gray was up in the office complex yesterday. All the other professors were gone. I was still up there at about 7 o'clock. Shows you how exciting my life is when I'm still working that late at night. But she came up and she told me that the folks who are running the mobile text bookstore off campus one of the students who had been passing out flyers was taken by campus police over to the police area yesterday because he had the audacity to pass out these flyers. And it seems like the most mundane of things, but if you're recording that for the Bray, or you want to talk about that in a college newspaper, there's nothing that the administration can do, because legal precedent indicates that student journalists at the college level cannot be censored for what they say. Might be wrong, might have an incorrect inference, but they cannot be censored or shut up by an administration. And that's for a college newspaper. And the stuff our kids do for radio and television, oh, I really want somebody to tell me that my kids can't report on something. I don't think that's going to happen. That'll really cross my plate really quick. One of the infamous references, you'll be hearing over there. I have frost my flakes, fries my zucchini. I'll have some new ones later on. Anyway, you can't assume that people in other countries have those same reporting rights and privileges, where they can be jailed for the most trivial or mundane items, and there's no such thing as habeas corpus, so they can be jailed indefinitely without really knowing what their violations are. And oftentimes, some people will be killed. So that's why I have this last paper just to give you a better perspective of local journalism. Okay, the final exam, actually it's exam 4, is offered, I believe this is correct, don't quote me on this, but I went back to look at some of my old final exam schedules from previous fall semesters. I believe that the final exam is going to be offered on Wednesday, December 13th. Now this is final exam week, so it is on a Wednesday, so there's a symmetry to everything we do here. And according to the final exam schedule, the exam will be offered from 10 a.m. until noon. Ordinarily we're here at 11. But this would start at 10 a.m. 50 points, and the fourth exam is not comprehensive. I always hated that when I was in college. I did not get an A in my college psychology course for that reason, and 20 years later that still bothers me because I could have had a 3.83 and I wound up with a 3.63 that term. Still bothers me. Now, the exam is going to cover chapters 13 through 16 of the text. And of course, the other things. Lectures, class discussions, handouts, and videotapes. I'm big on videotape. I love videotape. For instance, in 1985, I can remember going to the supermarket to buy new Coke and tasting it and thinking it tasted like watered-down Pepsi. Well, I wasn't the only one. And whenever we talk about advertising fiascos, I'm going to, where this gentleman is right here, I'm going to plug in the VCR and show you video excerpts from that, as well as other items during the semester. So videotape is an important component of this class. At this point, we still don't have 500 points. The other 40 points is for attendance, class participation. At this point, we have 460 points. The 40 for attendance, class participation puts us exactly at 500. Individual effort at forwarding trenchant analyses of course issues and assisting peers with constructive criticism of assignments. I can shovel it with the best of them. Okay, but forwarding trenchant analyses of course issues. Basically what that means is, if I'm talking, look interested. And whenever someone in class is talking, I don't want anybody else to. I want you to be quiet, pay attention to what they have to say. I have two other things to say, and then I'll let you bid a hasty retreat out of Dodge. One of which is this. During the course of the semester, if you have any questions or problems or concerns, please let me know. Okay? I am not a mind reader. I am not blessed with the gift of prescience. I am not John Edward, who was on the Sci-Fi Channel. I've been talking with him from the other side. He's fine. He's eating a cheeseburger right now. Have you seen this program? The guy, well, I don't know. I don't think he's talking to dead people. I think he's very good at reading people. But call me cynical. Anyway, the second of my questions is, I want to make sure that you get all of your assignments done on time. I don't want this to be a course where I'm always pontificating to you, Because during a course like this, and I think Judy Vassar put it best a couple of years ago, that we learn as much from you as you do from us, because there are certain trends or items that you might be interested in that old ones like us may not necessarily be interested in. So during the course of the semester, I really believe class discussion is very important. I believe preparing this is very important. I think neatness is important with the term papers and everything that you do for me. Finally, I would ask you to write down the following numbers. I realize some of you may have put your stuff away, but I'd ask you to write these down.
Why you did it?
I have two sequence numbers for you. Some of you were not advised by me. Many of you are introductory freshmen or beginning freshmen. Let me give you one number, which is 0089. That is a sequence number for my radio production class. It is offered Tuesday and Thursday at 11 o'clock, and I have 6 openings still in that course. For those of you who are beginning freshmen and you have an opening at that time, you are more than welcome to take it, okay? Sequence 0089, radio production, Tuesday, Thursday at 11 o'clock. I have 6 openings left and then it will be full. The other sequence number is 0341. 0341. That is for the broadcast performance course, which is offered on Tuesday, Thursday at 12:40. And I have 2 openings left in that course. So 0089, radio production, Tuesday, Thursday at 11, and 0341, broadcast performance, Tuesday, Thursday at 12:40. 6 openings in radio, 2 in performance. In the radio class, we do a lot of writing and performing assignments, but you also do assignments every week for our radio program, SAU Magazine, which is one of the links on the Intro to MCOM website. Right now we're on 15 radio stations in 5 states. I want to get on in a 6th state, so we're trying to get on a couple of radio stations in Tennessee. So the kids have widespread distribution. For the 2 openings left in performance, we will be doing a lot of vocal exercises. Vocal exercises, trying to making it sound more professional. And the folks who take the performance course will also be doing stuff on television for me. So that will be first come, first serve. So I thought I would open that up to you. During the course, if you have any questions, let me know, because I want this to be a positive experience for all of us. And those who have taken my courses know I think I'm reasonably fair when it comes to grading. If you come to class and get all your work done, unless you fireball my house or slash my tires, my guess is you'll do just fine. In many cases, students are grading themselves, okay? So if you do everything you're supposed to do, my guess is you'll wind up just fine. Okay? See you on Friday.